family and friends. Welcome to another episode of Mental Health Conversations with Nerat-Dagwi. This is a podcast that is geared towards fostering mental health conversations among youth within and outside Africa. Yes, it is World Mental Health Day today, and I'm very excited because in the mental health space, this is like our Christmas day. Quick one, why is World Mental Health Day important? Well, you see, Mental Health Day is celebrated on the 10th of October every year globally, and it is important because it raises awareness about mental health issues on a global scale, and it also provides an opportunity to reduce the stigma around mental health and promote understanding and empathy. It also helps individuals to seek help and show them where to get the help that they need. And also, this is important because addressing mental health is crucial for building a healthier and a more inclusive world. So this year's theme for World Mental Health Day is Mental Health as a Universal Human Right. Yep, that's why the topic of today's episode is It Is Your Right. Now picture this. A staggering 450 million people across the globe currently grapple with mental health disorders, yet the stark reality is that millions of people still lack access to proper treatment and support. And you know what? These numbers are not just statistics. They represent real people, real individuals, and each of them deserving of universal human rights to mental health. Also, 75 to 85% of people with mental health disorders don't even receive treatment, so there is no access to mental health care. The treatment gap is really wide. 1 in 8 people globally have a mental health condition already, and as of 2021, over 20% of Nigerians live with a mental health disorder. So I don't even blame some people when they say we're all running mad in this country. That's just on a lighter note. Now, it is not news that mental health plays a very critical and vital role in our everyday living, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. In fact, it is a leading cause of disability worldwide, to the point that the World Economic Forum even said mental health conditions could cost the global economy $16 trillion if left unaddressed. Now, why is mental health a universal human right? You know the funny thing, access to mental health care is already a universal human right, and we cannot fight and advocate for mental health when we don't know that it is already our right. It is enshrined in the Universal Declaration for Human Rights. Now, human rights are universal and they serve to promote and protect people's rights to dignity, autonomy, community inclusion, and even freedom of association. So what are human rights and how does that relate to mental health? Human rights are rights that are inherent to all human beings, regardless of their sex, race, nationality, language, color, any other status. And these include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and a whole lot more. And everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. I think that by just even defining what human rights are, we can already begin to pick out what the issues are, because there are already loopholes when we begin to look at it through the lens of mental health, because we have issues like stigma and people not having access to mental health care, and even people that have access to mental health care are being treated poorly. So where is the intersection between human and mental health? From the very definition of human rights, we can begin to break this down bit by bit. So we have what we call economic, social, and cultural rights, and these rights seek to promote and include the right to work in just and favorable conditions, and the rights to social protection, an adequate standard of living, and to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental well-being. It also protects the right to education and the enjoyment of benefits of cultural freedom and scientific progress. Now, from the second point where it says the right to social protection and to the highest attainable standards of physical and mental health being, like I said at the beginning of the episode, that the right to have good access to mental health care is already enshrined in our human right. and we have the right to the highest attainable standards of physical and mental well-being. You see, now we can see how mental health and human rights intersect. Now, there are a lot of challenges that are facing mental health, not just in Nigeria, but on a global scale. And we see it reoccurring in the form of a higher prevalence of mental health disorders, and then the treatment gap where people can't get access to mental health care. And then a lot of countries even have very little budgets going in for mental health care. And we also have situations where there are no mental health care practitioners to even render these services. We also see the issue of stigma and discrimination. Stigma around mental health has remained a significant barrier, keeping people from seeking help, and many individuals and families continue to hide these mental health issues due to the fear of being discriminated against. And they don't even know that this is a situation that is infringing on their fundamental human rights. And we can't even begin to advocate for these things when we don't know that these are actually our human rights. And we can see how stigma and discrimination against individuals persist worldwide, and this violates their rights to dignity and non-discrimination. So being discriminated against is even having your human rights being infringed upon, and this can hinder access to education, employment, and social participation. So you see, something as little as discriminating against someone with a mental health disorder or illness can also bear the fruits of the person not having access to not having access to education, employment, and even social participation. So the person is isolated and is lonely and is basically just left for dead. So at this point, we can see how awareness goes a long way for helping people to protect their human rights as regards mental health. And when we know these things, then we can be able to advocate better access to healthcare and even reduce stigma. And we have also gone a step further into policy changes. We can see different countries in Africa that are beginning to sign the mental health bill or mental health acts in their own countries. Some of these countries include South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, and a host of other countries, and the numbers are rising. We can see how raising awareness will go a long way to set the ball rolling, to protect human rights as regards mental health. There are organizations and initiatives that are committed to doing this work in Nigeria, outside of Nigeria, on the global scale. And because you can't wait on the government to do everything, you need to join a cause, volunteer, donate, do whatever you can, to make sure that people's human rights are not being violated as regards mental health. I believe that by now we have a clearer and better understanding that our right to mental health is enshrined in our universal human rights as individuals, and these human rights include the right to health, the right to dignity of human persons, the right to non-discrimination, the right to freedom of association. So with this, can advocate for access to mental health care, stigma reduction, and even policy changes. Safeguarding mental health isn't merely a choice, but a fundamental right that transcends boundaries, beliefs, and cultures. And together, I believe that we can ignite change and work towards a world where mental health is not a privilege, but a right. So, my mental health tip for this week is not going to be a statement, but I just want you to reflect on this. You need to keep in mind that maintaining your mental health is a journey rather than a final goal. It is not a destination, and it is critical for us to prioritize self-care and to seek assistance where necessary. Just as we are fighting for mental health to be recognized as a fundamental human right, we need to ask assistance from family, friends, and professionals by getting in touch with them. Simple daily routines like engaging in mindfulness exercises, remaining physically active, and even keeping a support system can have a significant impact. And of course, we can make it possible for everyone to have access to mental health. Thank you for listening to this episode. Let's continue the conversation on social media. You can reach me at Nerat-Dagwi on all social media, and you can also follow the podcast page on Instagram at Mental Health Conversations and on Facebook as Mental Health Conversation. Until next time, bye.